When it comes to strength sports, powerlifting and strongman are some of the most clear-cut choices in displays of raw strength, technique, and power. But how does that strength translate on the arm wrestling table? Well, in just over 2 weeks' time, we'll get our answer, as Brian Shaw takes on Leonidas Arkona in a clash of powerlifting and strongman strength at East vs. West 23. Today, I'll be going over their strength, technique, and experience to predict who will stand victorious in 2 weeks' time. Can Brian Shaw prove that his hype is real, or will Leonidas Arkona hand him a brutal reality check? As one of the strongest humans to ever walk the earth, Brian Shaw undoubtedly needs no introduction, as his resume is already one of the most decorated ever. He's a 4 times World's Strongest Man, 10 times podium finisher, 2 times Shaw Classic winner, 3 times Arnold Strongman Classic champion, and he holds 27 international titles, 30 total wins, and 36 world records. Given his numerous strength achievements, Brian has conquered the world of strongmen through his size, strength, and consistency. But now, the world of arm wrestling will be a different battlefield entirely. Despite having relatively few matches, we can see from most of his training footage that Brian seems to be primarily a posting top roller, as shown from his most recent training footage with Hermes Gasparini. In addition, he's also displayed a powerful flop press, as shown in his match with Brandon Allen, as well as in practice pools with both Devin and Todd Hutchings. This will likely be crucial in their upcoming match, as Leonidas has actually been shown to struggle against the flop press, as evidenced in his matches with Schoolboy and John Brezink, where he often gets opened up and leaves himself susceptible to the flop press. We've seen this play out pretty cleanly with John Brezink, where he was able to beat Leonidas 3-0 by utilizing the flop press every round. Brian himself has also literally said that pressing is the most comfortable move for him, so it's likely that he will be able to exploit Leonidas' weakness in the flop press.
Getting into a press is probably my most comfortable thing, but I'm also staying away from it.
Press scares me.
But what truly makes Brian a scary opponent to go up against, apart from his pressing ability, is his insane grip strength outside of the straps. In his most recent super match, we've seen Brian's terrifying grip strength against Brandon Allen, where he was able to hold onto his thumb and pin him twice straight out of the straps. We've also seen this holding ability against Eddie Hall, where he was able to win all 4 rounds outside of the straps. Even in practice with Todd Hutchings, Todd himself admitted that he would struggle to escape from Brian's grip and would probably lose to him if he attempted to slip from a bad position.
Oh. I'm holding on. You could probably win that. Let's make it fair.
From his videos, we've seen his static grip strength of up to 138.6 kilos, or just over 300 pounds, which is already far above the likes of Levon, who measured 93 kilos, or 205 pounds. We've also seen him easily beat Hermes in grip strength as well in his videos.
Yes!
These are not bad.
So while Leonidas hasn't been shown to struggle to slip against his opponents, Brian's sheer grip strength alone may be able to take a round or 2 away from Leonidas if he is not careful. Now, aside from his technical skill, Brian also holds pretty much every single physical advantage over Leonidas as well. He has bigger biceps, bigger forearms, and is over half a foot taller than him and also weighs over 100 pounds more. Brian's hand size is also larger than Leonidas, as shown through similar comparisons with Matt Mask. In fact, Hermes himself even described Brian's hand to be similar to Levon.
Yeah, I feel my hand like when I pull it with Leva. Almost.
So, given all of Brian's physical advantages and seemingly perfect style against Leonidas, on paper, this match doesn't look close. But arm wrestling isn't fought on paper. It's fought on the table, and that's exactly where Leonidas might have the edge. Standing at 5'11" or 182 centimeters and weighing a clean 129 kilos or 284 pounds of pure muscle, Leonidas is also one of the strongest men on the planet. having won first place in the 2019 Insanity meet with a whopping 925 kilos or 2,040 pounds, first place in the Fitness Store Classic, and holding the German strict curl record of 100 kilos, Leonidas Arkona is no stranger to strength sports. Having first debuted in his first big match against Larry Wheels on the left arm, in which he won dominantly 3-0, he would also then go on to defeat Larry Wheels on the right, Schoolboy, and even give a good challenge to John Brzezinski himself. Leonidas is primarily a top roller, as shown in his match with Schoolboy and Brzezinski, but he also has a very strong hook as well, being able to overwhelm both John and Larry Wheels in the hook. He's also displayed a kind of quasi-kings move against Larry, though it looks a bit more like an open top roll to me. But just looking at his lifts and matches, we've seen that Leonidas does actually have extremely strong pronation for a top roller. For example, Leonidas has lifted 75 kilos or 165 pounds on pronation, which is incredibly strong even compared to top arm wrestlers. For reference, here's Hermes lifting 67 kilos or 148 pounds with somewhat similar form. We've seen the strength translate into real matches as well, seeing as he was able to crack through Schoolboy's wrist in seconds, as well as ripping through Jean's cup and forcing him into a flop press. This means that if Brian attempts to match Leonidas top roll for top roll, it's extremely likely that Leonidas will be able to crack through Brian's cup, similar to what happened in the Schoolboy match. And even if Brian can keep his cup, I don't think that he will be able to top roll Leonidas either, seeing that both John and Schoolboy tried but couldn't crack his wrist. So, with all that being said, who will be walking away victorious on April 18th? Well, personally, my official prediction will be Leonidas Arkona 3-1 against Brian Shaw. So why Leonidas? Well, there are several major factors to consider when evaluating this match from an arm wrestling perspective. For one, Leonidas has the experience advantage on the table, having been arm wrestling since 2020 and taking the sport seriously since 2023. He's already been training for close to 3.5 years, with more casual involvement dating even further back. Meanwhile, Brian has only been in the sport for close to 2 years, with serious training starting in 2024. And speaking of experience, a major critique that Brian has had all throughout his career is how he moves on the table. Compared to Leonidas, who moves pretty naturally on the table, Brian has looked relatively clunky and uncomfortable in certain positions where he looks like he doesn't quite know what to do. However, I will go off a little bit here and say that this narrative is over-exaggerated, as when you take a look at his recent practices, he doesn't look half as bad as a lot of people say he is. We can compare him to Alex Kurdecha, who is the closest comp in terms of weight and size. And honestly, Brian doesn't look like he moves way worse than Kurdecha on the table. Obviously, he isn't as smooth as Kurdecha, seeing as Kurdecha is a seasoned top 10 arm wrestler. But I don't think that he moves that much worse than Kurdecha when you compare them side by side. Nevertheless, Leonidas is also way more proven on the table, having faced more legit arm wrestlers like Schoolboy and John Brzezinski, who have both been arm wrestling for their entire lives. And of course, no offense to Brian's opponents, but Eddie Hall and Brandon Allen aren't exactly comparable to Schoolboy or Brzezinski. Another thing that we have to consider is the recent new rule changes at East vs West. Recently, they implemented a new rule change where you only need to slip twice before all rounds automatically start in the straps. While this rule change was meant for matches to flow faster and provide a better viewing experience, it also nerfs pullers like Brian and Vitaly, who are very strong pullers outside of the strap. This means that Leonidas only needs to guarantee 2 slips from Brian before Brian's grip strength becomes a non-factor, as all subsequent rounds will now start in the straps. This effectively reduces the potency of Brian's gripping power, since it means that he'll only have 2 chances outside of the straps to try and pin Leonidas. And last but not least, if we want to be picky about things, Leonidas does also technically have home court advantage, seeing as the event will be taking place in Germany. Now, I don't think this will matter much in the actual match, but it is worth bringing up just as a fun fact. So, here's how I see things playing out round by round. For the first round, I see Leonidas getting the slip, and in the straps we see a top roll versus top roll match. Leonidas cracks Bryan's wrist and immediately starts surging to the side and eventually pins Bryan, 1-0. In the second round, Bryan tries to hold on and does manage to stick onto Leonidas outside of the straps, but Leonidas purposely elbow fouls to escape the bad position. On the reset, Leonidas gets a slip and in the straps, Bryan sets up for a flop press and manages to catch Leonidas off guard and pins him, 1-1. Then, in the third round, Leonidas, having learned from his mistakes in the John and Schoolboy match, switches to a hook to block Bryan's flop press and pins him in the hook, 2-1. In the fourth round, Bryan tries for the top roll again, but Leonidas cracks his wrist, surges to the side and flash pins him 3-1 as Germany cheers for its young champion. Now, at the end of the day, while this match may play out very differently than what I predict, I do think that Bryan will be able to take a round from Leonidas, whether outside of the straps or through a flop press, but Leonidas will ultimately be too much for Bryan Shaw. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Can Bryan Shaw overcome Leonidas' table experience and strength, or will Leonidas Arkona end the hype of the American Giant once and for all?